Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining. The topic of today's webinar is going to be empowering immigrant success, navigating Canada's job market and higher education with WES Credential Evaluations. My name is Riley Cohen. I'm the CEO of CanadaVisa, and once again, I'm very excited to welcome everyone here today. This webinar is going to start off with an overview of the Canadian immigration system, as well as recent changes. And then it's going to be followed by a presentation by our guest from WES, who will discuss a critical part of your immigration journey. After the presentation, we'll have a question and answer period, giving you the opportunity to interact with our guests. We had many questions submitted prior to the webinar, so thank you for those. And we're going to get to as many of those questions as possible. But we encourage you to ask questions in the chat throughout the presentation. And our team of moderators are going to add your questions to the question queue. So I'm very happy to introduce our two guest speakers today, Abhinav Jana and Kevin Kamal. Abhinav is a digital marketing head with WES. AJ has been an integral part of WES's digital marketing team for the past 5 years, contributing to strategies that enhance the organization's global impact in credential evaluation and international education. As a former WES customer who received his credential evaluation for IRCC, AJ brings a unique perspective to his role, combining personal experience with professional expertise. He holds a master's degree in management of technology from New York University and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Maharshi Dayanand University in India. Thanks so much for joining, Abhinav. Kevin's a business development director with WES. Kevin has led Canada's institutional client development and relations team for the past 24 years. He works collaboratively with all stakeholders in the international academic credential assessment and recognition community in Canada. Mentoring immigrants or refugees are his passion. Prior to joining WES, Kevin worked in both private and public sectors. He holds a bachelor's degree in sociology and master's degrees in social sciences and international relations from universities in the United States. Kevin has co-authored articles on the education systems of Turkey and the United Arab Emirates. Thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. Again, we're going to have ample time at the end of the webinar for our questions. So we encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation in the chat. Remember, the chat is public, so please do not share any personal information such as your phone number or email. These messages will be removed from the chat. And a big reminder here, do not share your WES reference number in the chat. The chat is public. Great. One last note is that the presentation slides and a recording of this webinar will be distributed with you in an email afterwards. So if there's a part of the presentation you want to review or go over in more detail, that will be with you in your inbox tomorrow. Great. With all that, let's start the presentation. Great. So today I'm going to give an overview of two popular Canadian immigration programs, they are provincial nominee programs and the express entry system. After that, I'm going to touch base on some new developments in the space. Importantly, we're going to talk about category-based draws, which is a new addition to the express entry system. We're going to go over some more recent changes in the Canadian immigration space, and as well as tools that we think can help you along your journey. We're then very lucky to have WES with us today to talk about a crucial aspect of your immigration journey and your journey to becoming a Canadian citizen, which is getting an educational credential assessment. Great. So briefly, so reminder to everyone, what is PR? Canadian permanent residency is a status granted to individuals who are not citizens of Canada, but have the right to live and work in the country indefinitely. Permanent residents are entitled to many benefits, including live and work anywhere in Canada, access to Canadian healthcare, education and social benefits. Also, crucially, PR is a pathway to Canadian citizenship. And then, of course, as a Canadian permanent resident, you have the obligation, if you want to renew your permanent residency, to live in Canada for 2 years in every 5-year period to maintain the status. So there are two popular economic pathways for getting Canadian permanent residency. They are the provincial nomination system, which we're going to talk about now, and the express entry system, which is run by the federal government. We're going to talk about that a bit later in this presentation. Great. What is a PNP? So Canada's provinces have the ability to select candidates for permanent residency. Each province manages its own PNP streams, provincial nomination program streams, each of which has its own eligibility criteria. The idea of having these different streams across provinces is that provinces have the ability to select immigration candidates that are best suited to succeed in their province or fill labor market gaps that may exist in their province. For example, Nova Scotia has a provincial nomination program that targets and selects doctors to live and work in Nova Scotia. How do these programs work? So there's two kinds of provincial nomination programs. For some PNP streams, provincial nomination program streams, you must enter a pool and then be selected based on how you would score against other candidates in that pool. Critically, once you get an invitation to apply for that province's provincial nomination program, you then need to take your provincial nomination program and then apply with the federal government, IRCC, for Canadian permanent residency. Direct application provincial nomination program streams are similar, where after receiving provincial nomination, you can apply directly with the Canadian federal government, IRCC, who makes the final decision on your permanent residency application. So how do I qualify for a PNP stream? How do I know if I'm eligible for one? There are dozens of provincial nomination streams in Canada. At the end of the presentation, we'll touch base on how to determine which of these streams you may or may not be eligible for. Another very popular way of immigrating to Canada is through the express entry system. Express entry system is Canada's management system for three major federal immigration programs. These programs are the Canadian Experience Class program, which targets candidates with Canadian work experience. There's the Federal Skilled Worker program, which targets skilled workers with foreign work experience. And then there's the Federal Skilled Trades program, which targets individuals with that are trades professionals. If you qualify for one of these programs, you're eligible to submit an online profile in the express entry system. After submitting your profile, you become a candidate in the express entry pool. So the first step is being eligible to submit your profile into the express entry pool. What information do you have to submit in your express entry profile? Well, at a very high level, you obviously need to give your personal details, name, date of birth, nationality, etc., your work experience, what jobs have you held previously, start dates and end dates, as well as your responsibilities. You need to submit your language proficiency and take a French and/or English language test with an approved organization. You need to enter your previous immigration history, whether you've had previous applications or refusals. And then critically, you need to submit your education history, your highest levels of educations, and all degrees that you've had if you want to maximize your score. And this will require you getting an Educational Credential Assessment, an ECA, for any non-Canadian credentials that you want the federal government to consider valid. You must obtain these ECAs through an approved provider such as WES. After you qualify for the express entry pool and you've submitted this information, the Canadian government uses this information to rank you against the other candidates in the express entry pool. You're given what's called a comprehensive ranking system score, a CRS score. And then every so often, the Canadian government selects the top ranking candidates by their comprehensive ranking system score in what's called an express entry draw. So every so often, the government selects candidates with the highest scores in an express entry draw. These candidates receive what's called an invitation to apply for Canadian permanent residency. And then you can use this invitation to apply for a permanent residency to submit your application and ultimately receive permanent residency. So the second step is getting selected from the express entry pool. And obviously, the higher score you have, the more competitive you are as a candidate. If you are successful and you're selected to apply for Canadian permanent residency within this pool, you have 60 days to respond with an application for permanent residency, and IRCC aims to process these applications within 6 months. A major development in the Canadian immigration space, specifically for express entry in 2023, Canada made a change to how express entry draws are conducted. Essentially, the Canadian government gave themselves the ability to select the highest ranking candidates within certain priority categories. So these categories are people with French language proficiency, healthcare occupations, people with experience in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math, people in trade occupations, in transport occupations, and in agricultural occupations. If you fall within one of those categories, it makes you more competitive as a candidate, because instead of competing with the entire pool for an invitation to apply for Canadian permanent residency, you only have to compete with people within those categories. Effectively, what this does is it lowers the required CRS score to get selected. So yeah, we've updated the chart here with how category draws work, and definitely look into whether you fit into one of these categories. Great. So another major development in the space, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, is changes to Canada's immigration targets. Every year, the Canadian government releases an annual immigration levels plan. And this year, in their annual immigration levels plan, the Canadian government decided to cut permanent residency admission targets by about 20%. Although the 20% cut might seem like a significant cut, I guess, especially relative to the targets that we've seen in the past couple of years, it's crucial to note that even with the current cuts, Canadian immigration targets are still higher than pre-pandemic levels. And then another important aspect of the immigration levels plan is that the provincial nomination programs have been scaled back significantly, but actually the federal high-skilled programs, so these are programs that go through the express entry system, which we just covered, targets for those programs have actually increased slightly year over year. So both the PNP and express entry remain popular avenues that you can take to get Canadian permanent residency. But clearly there's going to be an emphasis on the federal high-skilled programs on express entry going forward. Great. So let's talk a bit about some tools to help you get started on your journey. There are a lot of different free online tools that can help you determine how likely you are to succeed in getting Canadian permanent residency. A lot of these tools are free. On our website, for example, on CanadaVisa, we have a PNP finder, which we list all the provincial nomination programs. You're able to go there for free, browse the programs, and determine if you may qualify. We also have a CRS calculator on CanadaVisa, which you can fill out this form, and it'll immediately give you your CRS score. That can help you determine how you'd rank as a candidate in the express entry pool. We're really excited. We just launched a new tool called CanadaVisa Plus. And what we've done is we've added all of Canada's immigration programs on the back end. You can fill out one form, and within this platform, we'll give you a simple likelihood score of exactly how likely we think you are at succeeding within the Canadian immigration system. That can be given to you for free. And also we break down all the programs, all the express entry draws, kind of hold your hand and show you where you'd fit in the system and why. So these are all great tools to help you get started. I want to emphasize that Canada remains committed to immigration in support of both its economic and cultural ambitions. The space is becoming more and more competitive, meaning that you probably want to do as much as possible to maximize your chances of staying in Canada, and or coming to Canada. But yes, Canada remains open. There are still popular avenues to immigrate to Canada, and we discussed a couple of them now that both remain open. That ends my portion of the presentation. We're really lucky today to have WES, as we mentioned before, as guest speakers to discuss a critical aspect of your immigration journey, which is getting an educational credential assessment. So I'm going to pass it off to WES right now. And please, if you have any questions about the presentation, feel free to post them in chat.
Thank you so much, Riley, and welcome everyone. We are thrilled to have you join us today from all around the world. I was looking at the chat and all the different countries that you were mentioning. It's amazing to see the variety of places represented here today. A quick introduction. I know Riley already introduced us, but I go by AJ. I lead the digital marketing at WES and have been part of this organization for over the last 5 years. Really excited to be here today because I bring in the journey that some of you are already going through or are planning ahead. So just to give you an idea, I moved to the US around 10 years back to pursue my master's from NYU, from India. And during that process, I had to get my ECA, my credential evaluation for US, for different universities. And while I was in the United States, I was also exploring the opportunity to apply for IRCC, actually for the permanent residency that was just talked about. And for that process, I had to go through an ECA, and for which, again, I used WES for the same purpose. I understand there are so much complexities, there is so much that goes on while you're going through the process, so much documentation is involved, so we'd love to talk about some of those things in our presentation here today. I also have joining me Kevin Kamal, who's worked at WES for a little over 23 years and brings his wealth of knowledge about related to credential evaluation and as well as overall immigration in Canada and US, who will be part of the panel to answer some of the questions. So let's dive in. So what is WES? So I want to start with a little bit of explanation of who we are. So we are a nonprofit social enterprise that has been in business for the last 50 years. So this July, we actually celebrated our 50th anniversary. And what we do is we evaluate academic qualifications from all around the world. So kind of like taking you into some of our mission and vision in terms of what WES aspires for, we focus mainly on 3 types of group: immigrants, refugees, and international students. We want everyone to be able to use their education skills and experience to work anywhere in the world. And our goal is to advocate for the recognition of foreign education. So irrespective of which country you're from, what kind of academic education you have, we want to make sure that you are able to make the most out of it when you plan to move to Canada, US, or any other part of the world. What is credential evaluation? So credential evaluation is essentially a report that compares one's education to Canadian standards, or US, depending on where you're planning to use it. It is an advisory document that helps employers, immigration bodies, educational institutions, or licensing boards to better understand your qualifications. A lot of different countries have different education policies. 3 years bachelor's program, 4 years bachelor's programs, and then there are different ratings and rankings, and the quality of the university, quality of the education, and there are so many different aspects of it. So what WES does, it helps all the organizations, government, educational bodies in Canada to better understand your education from your home country. What makes WES different and why so many organizations in Canada rely on us is because we have a 2-step process. First, we authenticate and verify the qualifications to ensure that the individual has indeed earned the degree. We confirm that the qualification is from a recognized institution and the degree is accredited in your home country where you have studied. The second part of our work is basically refers to the equivalency. That involves like comparing your education from your home country to the Canadian standards. So an academic evaluation or credential essentially ensures that the qualification from one part of the world is understood and recognized in a different country, in this case, which is Canada. So where can we use our credential evaluation? As I was mentioning before, there are pretty much 4 segments where you can use your credential evaluation report for: education, employment, immigration, and licensing. Most of you who are joining us from Canada and have moved to Canada with permanent residency, you might have used an ECA for immigration. But let's say you are now planning to do your further studies or planning to apply for employment. I think this is where you can upgrade your ECA to a C by C or D by D. We'll jump into what C by C and D by D in future slide. But just to give you an idea, you can use your credential evaluation for many different aspects as you move forward in your career. So how can WES help in terms of when you support your job search journey? So just to give you an example, when I got my WES report, I had a digital badge that I received, which I have on my LinkedIn. And sometimes when I apply to certain jobs where they require me to have the qualification that I have from my undergrad from my home country, I make sure to add it to my resume so that it helps them understand that, yes, I do bring that knowledge as well, and which is certified, qualified, verified by WES or an entity which understands the academic education from India, in my case. So make sure when you are looking for jobs, you understand what kind of jobs might be suitable for based on your bachelor's degree after, or you go through your WES evaluation and you understand the equivalency of that in Canadian standards. Add it to your resume, add it to your cover letter. Of course, use the digital badge that we provide on your LinkedIn. That helps the organization or the employers to understand your education and how it stands compared to the Canadian standards. This should also help you for negotiating salary, or when you're at an interview, kind of like talk about it. I have a WES report, and this WES report helps me take my education to the Canadian standards. And then if, let's say, your organization or the employer requires you to send a report, you can always come back and request for an additional extra copy or a duplicate report to be sent and shared with them. So you can always come back to your account and request another report to be shared with the employer or the organization you're applying to. So these are the 3 types of reports that we offer for Canada specifically. It is pretty self-explanatory. You can see D by D is one of the basic, which is document by document. Then we have C by C, which is course by course. It's a little bit more specific. D by D is mostly required by employers. And then C by C is mostly, higher education. If you're going for your master's or any other university you're applying to Canada, that's where C by C is required. And then ECA is required by IRCC when you're applying for permanent residency in Canada. So you will notice that depending on what the organization or the employer requires, you can always come and request that. And as I mentioned before, let's say you already have an ECA with us, you can always come back and request to upgrade it to C by C or D by D. And let's say, just to highlight here one other thing, ECA is only valid for 5 years, but you can always come back and request a duplicate copy for that, which will again extend your validity for 5 more years. We have more information on our website for the same. So how to get started? So it's a pretty straightforward process. You can go to our homepage, to our website, wes.org, and you can submit your application. Once you submit your application, you will receive a reference number post you have made the payment. With that reference number, we also share instructions with you on how to share your documents with us. In certain cases, you will be able to send us your documents through your university digitally, or in certain cases, we have some other sort of ways that you can send us your documents. We also allow you to update. I have some information on the next slide here. We also allow you to upload your a copy of your degree certificate if you have completed a program. And there are more instructions depending on individual case on when you submit your application. WES has worked really hard in post-COVID to build digital partnerships with a lot of organizations around the world. And we have very successfully created a process which makes it much easier for these universities to send us documents. So once you submit your application, take a look at the required documents, take a look at how we are asking you to send us. And if we have previously received documents from your university digitally, I'm pretty sure you will be able to see that on your required documents, which tells you step by step on how to send us those documents directly. So these are, again, just highlighting the 3 steps. First, you apply at wes.org, you submit your application, make a payment, and then based on the required documents, based on your specific case, you share and send us your documents. Once your documents is reviewed and accepted by WES, we prepare a report for you, and we send the report to the organization that you have selected. So for instance, if you're getting an ECA, we directly send a report to IRCC, and we also send a copy to you. Processing time for WES varies for different types of reports that you're getting. Again, once you have submitted your payment, submitted your application, made your payment, we send you the request for sending us the documents, uploading some of the photocopy of the documents. Once we have reviewed and approved and accepted your reports or your documents that you have sent us, it typically takes us, let's say, 2 weeks if everything looks good. Then the next process starts, which is the evaluation. For evaluation, depending on which type you're getting, D by D and ECA usually takes 2 weeks. C by C takes a little bit longer time since we're doing a course-by-course analysis for you. Once the evaluation is complete, we directly send it to you, to the organization that you have selected on your application. One thing to keep in mind, you do not have to pick an organization when you're submitting your application. You can wait for report completion, and then you can always come back and select an organization after completion of your WES evaluation. Lastly, some of the advantages of working with WES. Definitely, we are one of the fastest and most accurate, reliable service in Canada. Also in the US, we have a staff a little over 400, where we have staff that can speak more than 50 languages. So we are very diverse and very resourceful in that way. Both our D by D and C by C reports that you get from us are value for lifetime. So you can always come back, request an extra copy, and they don't expire. The ECA does expire in 5 years, but you can always come back and request a duplicate copy, and then the validity will increase to another additional 5 years. We also have, since we are a social enterprise, we also have a social impact program. You can check out our website for the same. We also have some WES Gateway program to support different types of applicants from countries where they are unable to receive their documents. So please feel free to check out our website there. And that's all we had. We're going to move to a Q&A section. We had already received some questions prior to the webinar. So Riley, if you want to jump in and help us with that, we would be happy to answer some of the questions.
Yeah, of course. First things first, thank you so much, AJ, for the presentation. Super helpful. On behalf of CanadaVisa, but also the audience, just want to give you a quick thanks for that. Amazing. We got some great questions that came in prior to the webinar, as well as some questions that were asked in chat today. Want to do a quick reminder that please do not share any personal information in the chat. Do not share your email. Do not share your phone number. Do not share your WES reference number. But if you have follow-up questions to the answers that we're going to receive in the next 30 minutes or so, please feel free to put them in chat and we'll ask the follow-up questions as well. Great. So I guess first question, which we saw in the chat as well. Mohammed asks, how can I evaluate my bachelor's degree in surgical technology in order to be able to work in Canada as a surgical technician, like I am in my home country?
Kevin, would you like to answer that?
Sure. Thanks. Thank you, AJ. Again, first, thank you, CanadaVisa, for your partnership. We appreciate that. And as well as AJ, thank you for that great presentation. Really good one. Now, like to your question, right? Like this is our general approach. As long as your program of study was academic in nature, meaning that you studied in an academic institution, we will be able to evaluate it. Like the contrast or the difference is this: if this certificate, for instance, is from a private employer, we may not evaluate it. Even certain certification from professional licensing bodies, we do evaluate them, like in accounting. They are professional licensing bodies or boards, but they issue qualifications and we evaluate those. So it's a bit complicated. I say go ahead and apply to WES. And I believe we have a policy that if we cannot evaluate it, we're gonna cancel your file and issue full refund. So you have nothing to lose. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Ehimen asked, how can I get a new WES evaluation of my certificate as my previous one has expired? What is the fee to revalidate my certificate with WES?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned in my presentation, ECA is only valid for 5 years. So you can always come back and request a duplicate report for IRCC, and then the validity will be extended for 5 more years. I believe it's around 54 Canadian dollars, but Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Kevin, you're on mute.
Very sorry, very sorry. It is $54. All you have to do is, as AJ said, order a duplicate copy for IRCC, not for yourself, for IRCC, and then that automatically renews for another 5 years.
Great, thank you. I believe Basman asked, what are the costs and processes to get my doctorate certificates equivalency in Canada through WES? And I guess the question here is, does the kind of degree make a difference in the cost for evaluating?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you. No, not really. And in fact, we made it even simpler, really, very simple. All fees are per person, not per academic credential. So if you have, for instance, if you have a PhD or a doctoral degree, we're going to evaluate your PhD, master's, bachelor's. If you want your high school diploma, add that to per person. So the fees are per person. I hope that helps.
Yeah. Great. Someone in chat asked, Ricardo asked, well, first things he said, congratulations on our presentation. So thank you, Ricardo, for joining. But then he also asked, is WES accepted in Quebec for Quebec immigration?
Depends. For instance, Quebec Engineering Board, they use us. Some of the universities, like few of the universities, those that their language of instruction is English, they use us. But I have actually like the best suggestion me and AJ will have for you is with Quebec, because sometimes they are looking for French evaluation reports. I say make sure you contact the entity that you're applying, whether it is for higher education, licensing, or employment, contact them first before you apply to WES. There are certain bodies that they do, but not all of them. Yes.
Great, thanks. Yvonne asked, can one add an additional degree for evaluation to their profile on the WES platform?
Yes, absolutely. You can always go back and update your degrees. Let's say you already have an ECA with us, or a D by D or C by C. You can always come back, and we do have information about adding new credential. You can update your application to a different type of report if you want to, but you can always add a credential. You will have to pay additional fee for that, but that option is available on your My Account. I'm going to drop in our link to information on evaluation and fees. If you look into that, at the bottom, there is an option to look at full features. When you look at the full list of features, we do mention the pricing for adding a new credential or converting your report to a different type of report.
Awesome, thanks. And there's a couple of people in chat that I see asking if this webinar is recording or that they missed the first section or a question or two. As a reminder, everyone tomorrow is going to get an email with the slides and a recording of this webinar. So if you missed a question or you want to go over something again, look in your inbox tomorrow, and you'll see the recording of this webinar. So don't worry if you missed a section; it's not going to disappear this webinar. Nelly asked an interesting question, which was Nelly's still waiting for their diploma. Does WES evaluate these diplomas while she's waiting to receive it?
Remember that generalization we made, right? That general approach. If it is academic nature, yes, and the diplomas are, frankly, the landscape of diplomas are everywhere. So I say if it is from academic institution, there is by far less concern. Submit your application, and again, in case we cannot evaluate it, we're going to cancel your file with full refund. If it is a diploma from a again, as an emphasis, if it is a diploma from a private company like Microsoft, please avoid submitting those to WES. We wouldn't evaluate them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much for that. Gilbert Pierre-Louis asked, what are the fees associated for the WES credential for express entry?
So for express entry, you will have to get an ECA, which is our Educational Credential Assessment. Please feel free to check the link I shared, but the fees is $249 Canadian.
Great, thanks so much. Ibrahim asked a few great questions here. The first question is, can a WES credential evaluation improve my chances of being accepted into a Canadian university or college for higher education?
Kevin, would you like to take that?
Sure. Absolutely. I would say, yeah, like the short answer is yes. Yes, definitely. The good number of colleges, they use WES for admissions purpose. One of if you recall, AJ had a slide on the utility of WES services for 4 purposes, right? For immigration, employment, higher education, and licensing. Now, immigration, we know, right? Like, it's an easy one to take off the table. Immigration, WES is a IRCC designated agency. Right, thank you. This is a slide. So immigration is straightforward. WES is one of the ECA designated agencies, one of them. Now, when it comes to employment too, I would say you can feel comfortable and submit WES evaluation reports for employers. However, when it comes to admissions with universities and colleges, as well as with professional licensing bodies, we always and always emphasize you contact them directly, whether it is a call or an email. You probe them what kind of evaluation report they want. Again, do you recall AJ's AJ's outlined the difference between the D by D and a C by C, or a basic report and a detailed report? Ask explicit question. What type of evaluation they want, and from which organization. Really, when it comes to higher education and licensing, that is the only way I'm going to say protect yourself, protect your own interests. That is the only way to do it. Thanks.
Great. Awesome. And then the last question Ibrahim had on the great series of questions was around after getting their WES evaluation, are there any, I guess, programs or resources that WES has to help newcomers succeed in adapting to Canada's job market or pursuing further education?
Yes, like the AJ, please add to this. I say, like, one of the first step, right? And I will try to put this link to everybody on the chat. One of the best way to kind of get into that is become a subscriber to WES Advisor. That is a newsletter. That is a blog we have. In WES Advisor, we have really great deal of useful article tips, not just written by WES, sometimes by external experts, on how to use WES services, or generally speaking, credential evaluation for employment, for licensing, and higher education. And not only that, then we have a separate arm, which is our social impact arm. My colleagues there, they connect. They are very connected with the service providers outside of WES. Those service providers provide really very valuable services for immigrants to successfully settle in Canada. And by kind of subscribing to WES Advisor and WES's social impact newsletters, you will have a good start. I'm not saying like that is going to provide you everything you need, not at all. But that's a really good start to benefit from other services that WES provides you. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Great question here from Dampella. It's a long question, but I think the crux of it is Dampella has a certificate and transcript from institution that's now closed. Is it possible for her to still get a ECA?
Quite possible. Normally, when overseas universities, if they were recognized university or a college, or in other words, if they were recognized institution by the home country authority, which is normally the Ministry of Education. For some healthcare programs, sometimes it is Ministry of Health, actually, not Ministry of Education. Now, if it was a recognized institution, when they close, normally, I'm not saying 100% of the time, the archive goes to the Ministry of Education, or the records goes to archives in Ministry of Health. So the institution is closed, but there is another kind of a path to get your official academic documents to come to WES. It is possible. Yeah.
Great. Rushdie asks an interesting question. Maybe I can chime in a bit at the beginning, and then Wes, please feel free to piggyback and add more to the response. But Rushdie asks a great question, which is it necessary to do an undergraduate certificate evaluation if they've already done a master's degree evaluation for immigration? The answer is it depends always. But the getting as many degrees assessed as possible could have an impact on your, what we covered earlier, CRS score. Canada has a pretty complex way of assigning points to individuals for immigration. there could be situations in which getting a second degree assessed adds more points to your CRS score. So from an immigration perspective, that's a rough high-level answer. Of course, I can't give any personal direct immigration advice, but maybe I'll hand off to Wes as well.
I really have, like, I think, Riley, I think you covered that pretty good, really. I have nothing to add to that. Like that was perfect. Thanks.
Great, thanks so much. Awesome. So we have a question here from Rabin, who asked, who said that they've got an evaluation for their ECA for their bachelor's and master's degree 3 years back now, but needs access to it. Is it possible to request to get my old ECA account back, or do they have to apply for a new account? How should they approach the situation?
Sorry, AJ, let me just talk about, please go ahead too after me. There's just one complexity. In case a third party, like, by the way, the short answer, absolutely yes. Now, we run into the situation that a third party, just very, very good example. We are in a CanadaVisa webinar here. Very likely scenario, an immigration lawyer submitted your application initially. If a third party initially submitted your application, you need to get their consent for us to change the ownership of the file from the immigration firm to under your personal name. And normally we want an email from the immigration law firm that they are consenting for us to switch the file under your name. Sorry, AJ, I just jumped to that question.
No, absolutely. I think I was going to say the same thing, but also the best thing to do is to connect with our customer service agent and move forward with the next steps. They will be able to
good suggestion. Yeah.
Great, thanks so much. Mohammed asked, interestingly, they're having issues getting in contact with their university in their home country. And I guess has questions coordinating between the university and WES. Do you have any information or advice about how they should move forward?
Do you see the link I just put? I just want to make sure that my messages are going to everyone. I just put a link.
I see it, but maybe we'll wait for some validation from the chat as well.
Thank you.
That they see it. So please let us know if you guys see the link that Kevin just posted.
So to answer your question, that is the link that you can share with your university for them to start establishing digital partnership with WES. What does that mean? That means if when you share that link with your university and they have the capacity to establish a digital partnership with WES, we will be receiving your academic documents plus your colleagues who graduated from that university digitally. It is much more facilitated process. I encourage you, please share that link with the university. Once they establish that digital partnership with us, it is very easy process. Like really, less than a week, max 2 weeks, we will get the document. I hope that helps.
Great, thanks so much. I've seen a few of these questions now in chat and both submitted prior, and it might be obvious, but sometimes asking obvious questions could lead to insights. If you haven't finished your degree yet or your diploma yet, can you start the WES process, or do you really need to have fully graduated and completed all your courses to start the process?
Yeah, I think we do evaluate incomplete degrees as well. You can absolutely start your WES evaluation and always come back and update as you move forward in your academic journey. But Kevin, feel free to jump in here if anything you would like to add.
No, that was perfect response. Thank you, AJ.
Thanks.
Great, thanks. And Rabin asked a follow-up question. It seems like it's pretty specific advice. So like AJ said, Rabin, maybe reach out to the WES customer service for that request. Great. Inang asked prior to the webinar, do you consider online certificates and diplomas as well? Or does it have to be in person?
No, we do. Again, as long as it is a recognized entity, right? As long as it is recognized by the respective jurisdictions, authority. Again, normally Ministry of Education. In the case of US, is a bit different. So yeah, absolutely. There are a good number of online. How do you say, the trainings? It is more than training. There are a good number of online institutions in India. We do evaluate those credentials, yes.
Amazing, thanks. We had a question here about, I guess, as a follow-up, and maybe to be clear, do Coursera certificates count as an example of a credible university or university that you would evaluate for WES?
That's a tough one. I really, frankly, I don't know the answer to that. I have personally myself, I haven't seen any report that Coursera was the issuing entity. So I say again, take a chance, apply. If you don't, we're gonna give you a full refund. I'm not sure about that. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Great. Felix asked, and maybe there's not a clear answer to this because it might depend by program, but that they're currently pursuing a master's degree and are now in the research stage of their master's degree. If they've crossed over to the research stage, can they apply for an ECA, given that the academic portion of the degree is finished?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, you can absolutely start the process on towards the end of your program, and then always come back and update your application after your completion as well. But you can totally submit your application.
Great. Mahak Deep asked that they said that they've lost their graduation certificate. Is providing an official transcript okay as supporting documentation?
Yeah, I think that should be good. Yeah.
Great. A lot of questions here about how to get started and where to go next. Maybe this is a good question to end things on. For people that want to start their ECA process, where should they go? How should they approach it? And what tips and advice would you give them for that?
Yeah, for sure. I'll let Kevin jump in. But the first best thing to do is, if you're getting an ECA and you know you're applying for IRCC, please go to our website. When you see our website, you will see at the top right corner it says "Get an Evaluation." When you click on that, it will open up take it to a separate portal where it will give you option to select US, Canada, and New Zealand. I will go ahead and select Canada. And then since you're applying an ECA for IRCC, you will see that as an option there. And then you can start your application from there. That's the best way to approach for the ECA part of the things. The other thing I would say is definitely check with the university or with the employers that you're applying for in Canada, what kind of report they would require, what kind of report they would need, and then you can always come back and either upgrade your ECA or apply for a D by D or C by C, depending on what their requirement is. That's the best way to approach it. But also Kevin has shared a free tool here, so please feel free to check our free tools to get an idea of like what's your degree equivalency is. We also have a GPA tool on our website. Feel free to use that. That would give you a little bit more idea on how to approach this. Kevin, would you like to add anything?
Not really. Just the minor point that you mentioned already. Really, before you even apply, check that free degree equivalency tool. because we're going to give you your Canadian academic equivalency before even you apply to WES. Thank you, AJ.
Thanks, Kevin.
Great. Awesome. So just a major thank you here from CanadaVisa, then also from the audience as well. A lot of valuable insight that we've received. And I know that you guys have taken precious time out of your days, so I just want to make sure that we acknowledge that and we're thankful. And yeah, I think we've covered a lot of good ground here. For the chat and the people that have joined us, thanks for your time as well. We really appreciate you joining us. As a reminder, this webinar is recorded, and you'll get the slides and I think some useful links as well in the follow-up to the webinar tomorrow in your inbox. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, if Wes, do you have any closing statements or last points?
Nope, thank you for having us, and all the best for anyone and everyone who's applying for immigration, higher education. I would encourage you highly to definitely reach out to us with any questions you might have using our customer service option on our website. And as Kevin shared the free tools, please use those. That they're very helpful. And yeah, all the best, Kevin, if you had anything.
I second what AJ said. Best wishes. Short, just best wishes in everything you do. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Wes, AJ, Kevin. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, chat, for joining. And I wish everyone a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi.